It's that mindset of I still have power within me and I need to give myself the power to do it. And I think that is a challenge that a lot of people might give up, but you just have to keep plugging through. And I saw this woman take this dog over a few jumps, and then she held out her hands and the dog jumped up into her arms. I just thought, that's magical. How do I do this? I had to go through 4 dogs, a number of instructors, lots of seminars to figure out what I needed to know, because I really wasn't smart enough to know what I needed to know. People mistakenly think that the dogs just come out of the box being world champions, and they don't realize that it's more about the human and their ability to become the champion and lead their dog along with them. But each dog has brought something else to the table that apparently I needed to learn.
Hi, and welcome to The Champion's Journey, a podcast that helps you to build a growth mindset through interviewing and talking to champions and listening to their stories. Today's guest is Diane Patterson, and I couldn't think of a better way of presenting Diane by actually doing a hike. If she's not doing agility, she's out hiking with her husband, Bill. And when she travels to international competitions, you will see on her Facebook a lot of pictures of her and him hiking. Diane is a woman that I got the honor of meeting at the European Open in Denmark. And Diane has an amazing story. And I'm not going to spoil everything, but it really tells you about the importance of patience and effort and having a goal, but also ensuring that you're having the proper mindset to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. Sometimes things take time, but if you enjoy the process and if you enjoy what you're actually doing, hopefully you are, then you will see that results will come as a consequence of continuous action. If it is the first time that you're listening to this podcast, please feel free to listen to the first episode. And if you think that this is good content, please subscribe to the channel either on YouTube or at your preferable app for podcasts. And from there, I'm going to leave it to the interview. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Christopher. How you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
Oh, I'm having a beautiful day here. I'm spending some time vacationing on a farm with bison and bluebirds and blueberry bushes, and I'm having that balance between agility practice earlier this week and just loving life and enjoying life. It's a great balance.
But you've just been at the sort of training camp for the Senior World Championship for the U.S. team, right?
I was. We've had 3 practices across the country since the country's so big. We had one on the West Coast, one sort of in the middle of the country, and I attended the East Coast practice. And now in about 13 days or so, we all get on planes and head to the Senior World Championship in Portugal.
Yeah, and that's quite a journey.
Yeah, it's been about a 21-year journey, so I'm glad to be there.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting in the United States. I don't think Europeans quite can understand the size of the U.S. If you're just to put it in perspective, I was in Washington last year and I was flying to San Diego on the West Coast. And that was a longer flight than from Amsterdam to Washington. So just to get the size.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Chris, that's actually one of our challenges here is our geography, because we're so spread apart that we often can't all attend the same competitions, and that creation of the team has to be condensed into very short windows because we only have our practices just before the competitions. And I was meeting people this week that will be on the team in Portugal. So our geography is just huge. We can't all get together at the same time. So we usually have a weekend of practices in different parts of the country for different teams. The EO team practiced last week's, the senior world team practiced this week. The AWC team is practicing next week. And some of our people are on all the teams. So it's hard for us geographically to coordinate this.
Yeah, it definitely is. And when the people are listening to this podcast, is they should basically pick up a map and then see the
Oh
the
yeah.
distances between those different
Oh yeah.
trainings at all. Yeah.
Yeah, we drove about 16 hours to get to our 2-day practice.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just sort of what we have to do around here.
Yes. It's a lot of sacrifices if you want
Yeah,
to
where
be a part of
I
agility.
mean, seriously, where would you get if you had to drive 16 hours? What country would that bring you to?
And depends on where you are in Norway. So you could probably still be in Norway because it's a long
Yeah.
country with bad roads.
Yeah.
But I guess 16 hours we probably get to Germany, so
Oh,
around there.
wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm. So it is huge. America is a huge country,
Yeah.
and but the challenge is that you have this, or the difference is that you have the same language. In Europe, it's so different languages depending
Yeah.
on what country you're in, and that
Yeah,
creates a difference.
our biggest challenges here are, do you call it a flick, a spoon, a throttle wrap? And because everybody's got a different word for it. That's our biggest challenge. But at least we're all speaking the same language. We've got that going for us.
That's really good.
Yeah.
The thing is, I want to take us back because we met first in
Sure.
Denmark in
Mhm.
2023 at EO, and we got to know each other, and we met again at
Mhm.
the AWC in Czech Republic, and we've been having some contact. And I really enjoy going to competitions. I really look forward to Portugal to see you guys.
Yeah.
And but we've been talking a lot about mindset. We've been talking about different things, and now we're going to dig into your journey. So it will be really nice to take us back to when you started with agility, and maybe even before that, because I know that you've done some archery as well. So I was wondering if you could take us back to
Yeah,
that.
sure. Sure. Well, yeah, as you mentioned, my life started as an archer, the sport where he who stands stillest the longest wins. So that was really an interesting transition for me to make from standing still to a sport where I ran. And I was okay as an archer. I was a nationally ranked archer and did pretty well in competitions and things like that. And I messed up my shoulder. So that wasn't going to work out for me anymore unless I had surgery. And I wasn't about to do that. So I said, well, what else can I do? And lo and behold, at that point, a dog showed up in my life, a Belgian Lacanois that somebody in the United States had imported, thought she would start a breeding program because what a cool looking dog they are. And then looked at them and said, ooh, this wasn't what I thought at all. And the dog immediately got forgotten about, went into rescue. And I think I was like maybe her fourth or fifth chance. And by the time I got her, she was 2 years old, didn't even know she had a name. And I thought, well, I'll keep her. She looks really cute. And we had Belgians for about 20 years. And I thought, well, what's one more? So she became my first agility dog. And I did not know about agility. But the people in the Belgian rescue said, there's this place, this training center. And if you go there, they have classes and you can maybe do things with her. So I thought, well, I'll go to a dog training class. I have to tell you, it was the coolest moment of my life. We drove up, the doors were open, and as we were walking towards the building, I saw this little dog. I didn't even know it was a Papillon at that time. And I saw this woman take this dog over a few jumps, and then she held out her hands, and the dog jumped up into her arms. I just thought, that's magical. How do I do this? And she and I became friends after that, and we're still friends to this day. And my Belgian Lacanois became my first agility dog. And I had to learn a lot because of her, because she had no ability to have a relationship with humans. So that was the first challenge I had to get past with her, was to let her believe that she could trust a human and that we could do things together. And then it just sort of blossomed from there. And it's just been a great ride since then. And it's been a very challenging ride because they're all different. But that was how I started a very long time ago.
And I think that a lot of people there, probably those that are starting out with agility for the first time, think that, okay, yes, I've seen these amazing handlers and athletes and dogs running on Instagram reels and so on. And they get their first dog, and then they believe that they might be able to do that with their first dog. But
Yeah.
the reality is that those people that are at that stage, it's not their first dog. It's maybe their third,
No,
fourth,
and
fifth.
yeah, I mean, we were dog owners all our lives. We were like the quintessential, pet people, as we call them. And we'd gone to pet classes and things like that, maybe, but that's about it, throwing a frisbee. But yeah, I think people mistakenly think that the dogs just come out of the box being world champions. And they don't realize that it's more about the human, and their ability to become the champion and lead their dog along with them. The relationship for me has been huge. Luckily, my very first dog was a dog that I had to figure out how to have a relationship with. That preceded any agility training. She had to trust me. She had to know that I was her person, that I had her back. When I started right then and there on that day, literally just bending down to her and saying, I've got your back. You can believe in me. And to this day, that's still something that I encourage all of my students to do with their dogs, is just literally look at your dog and say, I've got your back, because dogs need to know that. And I think the running and the jumping part is really fabulous, but they're not going to run and jump until they know that somebody believes that they can and that they can trust somebody to take them in a right place. And that is a super hard part of this sport that gets, I think, overlooked a lot by many people who just want the maybe ribbons, titles, or just go out and play. It's kind of challenging that way.
Yeah, and the relationship is essential because you're basically leading the dog through own territory.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
plus this is
And they've got to sort of be one with you. Thankfully, and my Belgian was, I don't know, was she like 6 or 7 or 8 dogs ago? I mean, there's been a progression of dogs since then. She wasn't the world champion dog. She was one dog in a string of dogs that each one taught me a little bit more about understanding dog behavior and learning how to speak dog so that I could bring the next dog to a place. So for me, it was sort of like a progress over perfection approach, that I would eventually get to mastery, but each dog has brought something else to the table that apparently I needed to learn. And let's hope I have, but I still have a lot more to learn.
And that's the beautiful thing about dogs as well, because like you mentioned, it's individuals and every dog is different. And you can't just take a framework that you applied to one dog and think that it will work with the next one.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, I think, I've taught weave pole skills, probably 6 different methods, right? Or taught the teeter 6 different ways because 6 different dogs in my life didn't all respond the same way. And I had to figure out, which would motivate them and which would make them feel comfortable to do it. Like weave poles and teeter, right? Those are the 2 obstacles that a dog literally does by itself. There's really nothing you can do when a dog is in the weave poles or on a teeter to make it perform. So each dog is going to respond a little differently. And I'm glad that I was open-minded enough to know that all dogs aren't the same. And if it takes 6 different ways to make my dog happy or to make my 6 dogs happy, then that's what I'm going to try and do. And I'm not afraid to sort of reinvent and to find a different method that'll work for a different kind of a dog.
For sure. And I'm not a dog trainer myself. I have the privilege to be the partner of a dog trainer and then just spend most of my days with dogs. So I'm more in the back seat, enjoying it, not being the athlete or the handler. But you mentioned your first dog and you had to build a relationship part.
Mm-hmm.
But was there any dog that really changed the game for you, that took it to the next level?
Ooh. Yeah. Wow, each one in a different way. But the dog that really changed my life was a tricolored Sheltie, medium, named Cruiser. And he changed my whole world because he was the dog that he picked me. He was like the first dog that he picked me at 3 weeks old out of the whelping box. And he just said, she's mine. And I was after that. And so I tried to do my best to live up to what he needed. And Cruiser, wow, he was a fabulous dog. We read each other. And people would say, you don't even look like you train this dog. You just talk to each other. And I was like, yeah, I guess we do. We got each other. We talked the same language to each other. And we read each other so very well. And boy, was I blessed to have that dog. And that was just the luck of life that dog picked me out and said, this one's going to be my person. And right from the get-go, we did understand. So he was my first, I guess you'd say, big winning dog, right? He, went out and, at his first run, at his very first AWC tryouts as a not even 3-year-old dog, we took second in the class. And I was like, that's just crazy. Who goes to their first tryouts with their first really competitive dog and knocks it out of the park on their first run and gets on a podium, that like changed my life. We went on to win the Westminster Master Agility Championship, which over here is like a huge showcase event. It's on TV. Woo. And everybody wants to win Westminster. And it was really life-changing, and that sort of opened up doors for me, and it gave me the belief and the understanding that I had the power to do great things. And so I really credit who I am to, and he's gone now, but I credit who I am to him because he opened doors for me that I never thought were even, I didn't even know that the doors even existed. EO team, AWC team, didn't even know these kinds of things really were in my grasp until Cruiser came along. So he was the one.
Definitely. But do you also think that the previous dog like sort of laid the foundation of the skill set that made you have that relationship?
Yeah, most assuredly, because before Cruiser, there was Rosie. Rosie was a cattle dog, Cairn Terrier cross. Never put those two breeds together. Never. And so she had anger issues that we had to deal with. So it made every dog after her look really happy. She was tough from one perspective. The Rescue V, my Belgian Lacanois, she taught me how to build a relationship. And so each dog contributed something into the mix that allowed me to be more open-minded when I got to Cruiser to say, what do we need to do and what does make a good relationship? And so he was my shadow everywhere, and I figured out that like that was how to do it. And I grew with trainers through each one of those dogs. I think because each trainer gives you something, and it's all good, but sometimes you find a trainer and you're like, okay, you've given me what you can. Now I need to go to the next trainer and they're going to share with me their expertise on what their particular skill is. Cruiser I worked with a trainer who was very technical. Yay, bravo. That helped him understand. That helped me understand. I learned how to ask questions with that trainer. My first trainers, were good at teaching me other things that I needed on the journey. So it's really a huge progression. I'm telling you, it's 21 years in the making is, a long time to have a lot of experience.
And I think that one of the things that I also think is important to mention is that you didn't start when you were 12 or 16 years of age.
No, I started agility in my 40s. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I am old. I like to say I'm older than dirt and fresher than ever. But I started after my agility career was essentially done and I had a dog. And I was like 41, I think, when I stepped into my first training room with an agility dog. And it took a while. I mean, I started competing. My first competition was in 2004. And, there's nothing like having a blue ribbon handed to you on your first run when you didn't even know such things existed. I mean, like, talk about a dopamine hit there, I mean, I was hooked right there. It was like the gambling addiction of agility. So it was something that I wanted more and more and more of. And thankfully, that Belgian Lacanois kept me humble. She walked out of the ring on the second run that we ever had in competition. It was a jumper's run, 15 jumps. And she was like, where are the cookies? Where are the cookies? And she literally walked out at jump 10. Did not run out of the ring. She looked at me and walked out of the ring and said, if there is no rewards, I'm done with this. So I got a very valuable lesson that day that you reward in increments, not wait till 15 jumps are done. So that was a good training for me. Quite a humbling experience, but it worked. I learned you start breaking things down in increments and to get them to do all 15 things. So it was good.
For sure. But I think that when it comes to age, I think a lot of people let that number define themselves on what they can and what they cannot do and what is possible for them.
Yeah, I think you're right in that. I mean, we're all going to get old, and, when I started the sport, I didn't wear glasses and now I need glasses. And, when we started this sport, I'm sure that I was a few sizes smaller, but that's okay. I don't mind it. I learned to adapt. And when I started the sport, my knees weren't old and creaky and my back was a little stronger. So I chose to make adaptations to my physical being. There things that I did. Like literally, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it. I gave up drinking when I decided to become a competitive person for no other reason than I thought I'd hate to go to the show with a hangover, or I'd hate to go to the practice not feeling 100%. It didn't make me feel good. So I stopped that sort of behavior. I have smoked. I'm always amazed when I see handlers at shows and they're smoking and then they can run a dog. And I'm amazed at that. I don't know how that happens. But I had to really start working on my physicality. And that meant spending a lot more time on me and not on the social aspect of agility so much. So while, people were hanging out at a show, I was maybe running out on a hill somewhere. That's a hard thing to figure out that, as your age, you have to figure out how to get it done a little differently than you did when you were younger. As I was saying, I looked at a video of myself from about 10 years ago last night, and I went, ooh, like, who is she? I want to run like her again. But that's not going to happen. I mean, the truth is the body's a little older now, and it takes a little bit more recovery time. I can't do 6 workouts a week. I can do 2 or 3 really good ones because it takes my body a little longer to recover now. But that shouldn't stop people from doing agility. They shouldn't say, well, I'm old. They should say, I don't want to be old. So let me get up because movement is medicine. And let's get up and do something, whether it's walking the dog or jogging the dog or something like that. Let's get up and do something. And I think that's a real problem in what I see around me, is that people lead hairy lives and it's really an effort to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And I think that what is so cool about agility, what I really like, is that you can go to a trial or a competition or whatever you want to call it, and then you can see a 12-year-old boy competing against a 80-year-old woman running with her dog. And it's just fantastic. I don't know about any other sports, and I call it agility a sport that actually has that in it.
yeah, no, it's amazing. When we were at the World Team Tryouts this year, the kid in front of me on the line, is 17. And we've been teasing each other. We're friends. And so we've been teasing each other. And I'm like, how's it going to feel to beat an old lady? And he's like, really good, And I'm like, yeah, well, I've got more insurance than you, and I've got more doctors on my team than you do. And so we're teasing back and forth about this. But yeah, he's 17 and he's amazing. And there I am competing with him. And from his perspective, he's going, oh my God, I'm competing with her. So it's like this mutual admiration society. And his style of running is different than mine. He can get to every obstacle. And I applaud him on that, and all the handlers who can. And my style is using a little bit more distance, a little bit more strategy. And that's something that you might not need at that stage of where he is in his journey. But I find it interesting because he and I talked about, like, well, how do you get there? How did you get yourself into that position to be there? Or how did you get how did you stay back and learn how to send the dog? So we have these really healthy conversations about the different kinds of handling. I just keep telling him, wait till you wear eyeglasses. That changes everything, because once you put eyeglasses on your face, you sort of lose all perspective on course, and you have to really figure out where you need to be to make it happen. So just little differences, but it is a fabulous sport that does have old people and young people together, and I hope that never changes, because I do think that we now have the senior thing, which I'm very happy with that, by the way, and the junior thing, but we can still all compete together. And we still do compete together. We just go off to these special tournaments. But normally we're all together, and that's phenomenal. So I like that.
Yeah,
It's a great sport for it.
I agree, and I think that is something that will remain. And I really hope that it never changes, because it's such a great experience for everyone in terms of learning from different ages, and seeing that you can learn from young people and that you can learn from other people that are in your team that you're competing against, and having that dynamic no matter the age is so cool. But also that when you're younger, you can actually view this as a long-term hobby, that it's not like another sport that stops when you're 30. It's something that you can do for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I see younger people here, at least in the US, they're into it as maybe their early teens to mid-teens. They may go away for a little bit because of college or early life, but then they can come back into it later on. I've got a very good friend in agility, and she gave it up for about 15 years while she had her kids and raised kids and did the family thing, all of that. And, her kids didn't have an interest in it. So try to foster that they had other interests in their lives. And now she's back at it again. I've seen some kids come to agility classes together, which is really a beautiful thing, I think. I like they're passing down that love of animals and training to the generations. I love this sport because anybody can do it. And there are different levels, whether you just want to be the recreational or you want to be I want some nice cool little ribbons, or I really want to go for it and go on the big stage. It's such a diverse sport, and I don't know about you, but I hardly know what people do outside of agility. When we're at a dog show, right? We're always talking dogs, right? And I meet the most interesting people, but I don't learn until after the agility show is over about these amazing people that I've been talking to and chatting up at shows that of who they are and what they do out there in the so-called real world. I just think this is an amazing sport, and the longevity is great. So I started in my 40s, early 40s, landed a spot on my first world team at the ripe young age, I think of 50, it's either 55 or 57. I'm old and I can't remember these things. So that was my first world team. And then, here I am am I allowed to say how old I am? Yeah. Okay. Well, here I am at 64, and I am now in what's considered to be the super senior age, and I'll be competing at the Senior World Championship. And, with the grace of God, maybe one day I'll be back at the Agility World Championship on that green carpet again. It's not that you have to worry about being old. You just have to worry about being old in your head. And if you have a mindset of I'm still 25 or I'm still 17 or whatever, you can still do it. It's just don't give up. Keep trying.
Yeah, there's a great sports psychologist who says that I wake up every morning making sure that I don't let the old man in.
That's right. That's right. Get up every morning, and movement is medicine. And just, there's things I live by, like never miss a Monday. No matter what's going on in life, you never miss a Monday workout. You do something to take care of yourself. And whatever I'm doing throughout the week, there are certain things that are just sort of like non-negotiables with me. I have to get them done because I have to feel good about me. It's not that I'm necessarily doing it for a competition. I'm doing it because I want to be able to go climb mountains when I'm old. When we were in the Czech Republic, man, I got to tell you, hiking those mountains, those Bavarian mountains, that was a mind-blowing thing. This sport has taken me to so many amazing places in the world. And I need to physically be ready for all of those amazing places. It's not just about going to run the dog. He's the conduit to how I get to these places. But I live my life most of the time outside of the ring, and, I want to be ready for it. So it's that mindset of I still have power within me, and I need to give myself the power to do it. And I think that is a challenge that a lot of people might give up, but you just have to keep plugging through. Commit to yourself.
Yeah, and one of the things I really want to go back to the dog that made it for you. What was the name again? Cruiser.
Yeah. Cruiser.
And so, and you said that you started when you were 40, early 40s.
Yeah.
And then you were around 55. Was that the time when you had Cruiser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost. He was my fourth dog, I think, that in agility by that. Maybe I don't learn fast enough. I know there are people who are like, they come out of the gate and their first dog is on the world team at age 2. That wasn't me. But you know what? That's perfectly fine. I had a progression that I had to go through and things I had to learn. But yeah, I started in my 40s, and Cruiser is about my fourth dog that I trained in agility. Oh, I'm being corrected. My third. My husband is correcting me. He said third. The other dog belonged to him. Yes. I'm sure I trained that one too.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Don't say that to Billy.
No, we won't tell him.
No, he won't tell.
I handed him a trained dog.
Right.
So yeah, but that was like my fourth dog. And that's that's a lot of rejection, to use a right? They don't all hit the blue ribbon the first time. As I said, my second run, my dog walked out of the ring. She was like, I'm done with this. You need to be better. Well, I'm not staying with you. But it took a long time to figure out what skills I needed. And I didn't even know, Chris, what I needed. I had to go through 4 dogs, a number of instructors, lots of seminars to figure out what I needed to know, because I really wasn't smart enough to know what I needed to know. I didn't even know what questions to ask. And by the 4th dog, I finally figured out a few questions that needed to be asked and was able to ask with clarity about things that I was curious about. And I was comfortable somewhat in reaching out to people who were at a higher level than me and saying, would you talk to me and answer my questions? I don't understand this. Could you explain to me how you do it? I remember literally I literally walked up to somebody I admired at a show and said, can you tell me how you built your relationship with your dog? And his answer was play with it. But that was rejection. And I was like, okay, I'll find somebody else who will answer the question. And I did. So it's cool.
Yeah, but I think it's an important factor there, because if you want to change a mindset, let's say that you want to change an outcome, you also need to change your mindset. And a part of that mindset change is also changing the questions you ask yourself, or questions that you're asking other people. And that's an important point that you're pointing out there.
Yeah. I'm very direct when I'm working with others, whether they're my students or even just people that I meet at shows that we're chatting. I find when people start conversations with statements like, he's never seen that kind of a setup on course, or she doesn't know that turn, and they're speaking about their dogs or their performance. They're really speaking about their performance, but they put the burden on the dog. Well, he's never seen that, or she doesn't know that. And I stop them right there and I say, start your sentence with I. I didn't train that, but what skills do I have that I can use to achieve that behavior that I have not yet worked? Because seriously, if you do the mathematical permutations, you will never train everything that you will see on course. It's just mathematically impossible. And, every course is different. So you can't train for it all. But I really, really encourage people to not put the burden on their dog. He was bad. He didn't stop on his contact. He dropped the bar. No, he didn't. You didn't perhaps train that behavior or whatever it is. And that's really hard for people to accept the responsibility. And that is a huge mindset change. And I think that is when you can make that mindset change, that is really when you start to get progress over perfection and you start to work towards mastery. And so I'm very, very clear with people that if you want to talk to me, your sentence needs to start with I, not my dog didn't do this or my dog didn't do that.
Yeah, that reminds me. It's huge. It reminds me of a lesson that we learned in the military. They called it the mirror and the window. You have to know when to use the mirror and when to use the window. Because if things aren't,
awesome.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, write that down. Because I think that if you're not getting the results that you want on the agility course, and you're using the window, blaming everything else but yourself, you're missing out on an opportunity to learn and grow. You should use the mirror in that case and say that, okay, this sucks, but I can take responsibility. And the interesting thing, since English is my second language, and I see it responsibility is that it's the ability to respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the words mean.
Perfect.
And if you're not responding properly, you're reacting, right?
Yes.
So it's knowing when to use the mirror and when to use the window.
Yeah. And I'm always trying. Action is a big word for me as well. Like, you need to adapt at a moment's notice, right? So yesterday in our trainings, I said, I want to practice failure. I want to literally send my dog somewhere that is wrong, and I need to practice recovery and saving that and figuring that out. I need to adapt quickly. And I think that that's one of those things that timing for somebody who's a little more mature in age, our timing is not as fast necessarily. So you have to work really hard on that. And I like to practice failing because I need to know, can I save and recover? And I don't know that people want to practice failing. Now, mind you, I don't want my dog to fail. I imprint success. That is always my goal in training. But if I'm failing in a way that my dog doesn't know I failed and I was wrong, I can do some training that way. So, for instance, I've recently wanted to just send him to a slice on a backside where the better thing would have been the wrap. And I was like, but if I'm in the wrong place in the wrong time, can I do the slice? He won't know that it was a fail on my part, but my mental, and that's the adaptation of the mental game. Like my mind said wrap. Okay, that's great. But my body had a life of its own on course and it was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so my wrap isn't going to work. Now, do I give that mission up and figure out how to get the slice done and still be successful? That's the training that I need because I need to get that picture of wrap out of my head as fast as possible and get to something else. I think that's something that handlers of all ages need to be working on. You realize that you're not going to get to every obstacle. It becomes even more important of a skill. But yeah, if for me, anything that puts the burden or the blame on the dog is just not acceptable to me. And I am the one leading the dog and I am the one that the dog is trusting. And so for me, that's really huge. And I think, Chris, in terms of asking questions, I think people really need to just ask questions. So an example, I was working with a trainer once and the trainer kept repeating, well, look at your dog, right? We've all heard that a million times, right? Look at your dog. So I stopped and said, what part of the dog do you want me to look at? Do you want me to look at eyes? Do you want me to see peripherally? Do you want me to look at its paws on the ground? What do you want me to see? What does it mean when you say, look at your dog? And light bulb moment, because people don't ask questions for fear of sounding stupid. And, invite me to your seminar. I'll be the first one to ask the question that may sound stupid because I want to know what it means. Or I'll ask people, they'll say, well, my dog is committed to an obstacle. And I go, well, what does that mean? Tell me what commitment is. Like, if you can define it, then you can train it and I can help you. You can help yourself. And I find that people don't really know a lot of the solid definitions on the word. So, like, my advice for anybody of any age, and especially us older people who are getting into this, ask as many questions as you have to ask to get the answer. Be that annoying person. Somebody's being paid to answer your questions. So ask and find the definition of what people mean by things. I think that's so huge in this game. And if you have those answers, you can be so successful.
Yeah, and the asking question creates clarity, hopefully, and that creates understanding. Yeah. And that's just as important for you as the handler as the dog, right? Because that's what we're all talking about. You need to make the dog understand. And that you do that by creating clarity for the dog. But it's so important that you create clarity for yourself as well. And that you do it by asking questions. And I also think that it's a great tool as a mental tool, especially write down a question that you're asking yourself and then look at the question. Is this a quality question or should I rewrite the question? Because if you're asking yourself, why am I always failing, ... there. And then maybe you should also ask yourself and add to it, why am I always making this right? But people don't ask that question. They're so focused on the mistakes.
You talk about the 5 whys. Ask yourself why. Okay, why? Drill down and really have a heart-to-heart with yourself about why it is that this is an important thing to you, or why. And on the other hand, why are you not listening to the people who are giving you advice? Because the people really only want to see you succeed. I mean, I hope that's the case, and that's been my experience in this game, is that people really do want to see you succeed. Why am I resistant to change? Why am I resistant to accepting this information about my dog? Why am I resistant to changing my behavior to help my dog? Why am I resistant to taking responsibility? And once you sort of throw that ego out, so you have to change things. So we talked about my dog Cruiser. that was a blessing and a tragedy at the same time. He passed tragically. And I found myself at a point in my journey where I had to make a decision. Who would I be in this game? Was what I was doing to that point correct? Did I have an opportunity to reinvent myself and to be something else? And what about my training or what about me, needed to be different? And let me tell you, you talk about the mirror. Boy, there was a mirror there. And I really had to assess what I wanted to be in this game. And for me, it came down to, I love my local friends. I love hanging out at my local shows. I love my people. I love my tribe. And because of them, I am who I am. But I had to make a decision. Would I be different? Would I grow my skills so that everything that I wanted for my cruiser could happen further in life with another dog? And that's a really tough mirror. And it's very introspective to have time on your hands to really think about those whys, because I had more than 5 levels of whys. And I had to go do some reparation on some levels in life. And I had to accept that everybody is awkward and we're not all at the same place mentally, and give grace to myself and to them. I had to put aside a lot of emotional things, because this sport is very emotional. Wow. And say, I can be better. And I thought I was okay before, but I thought I could be better. And that's just sort of like a driving goal. So that dog continues to change my life to this day. And I always give thanks to him for everything he's done.
Yeah,
and I always carry him with me he carries with me wherever I go.
Yeah, it really seems like Cruiser didn't just give you results; he changed beliefs about what you were.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to have bad things happen to have good things happen. You could save all the, if grief happens to you, it happens. I mean, there's just no avoiding it. I mean, accidents are accidents and things happen. But you could go into this game and say, this is who I want to be. And I think knowing who you are when you go into this is so important. I write things down a lot. I am a team member. Whether I am or not, I write it down. I am a team member. I conduct myself at a show as if I were a team member. I try to instill in people that pride to be courageous and decisive in their actions so that they could really be who they are or who they want to be. And I try to reframe those things in life. Reframing is just huge for my mindset game. I had to reframe a lot of things. So some examples of reframing. I love it when, and we have all done this, trust your dog. How many times have you probably said that? Trust your dog, right? And I giggle inside every time I hear trust your dog, because I go, it eats worms and it rolls in poop and it would steal pizza off the table. Why would I trust this thing? What I hear is believe in myself. So whenever somebody says to me, trust your dog, I immediately flip that and I reframe it in my head to believe in myself, Diane. You can do this. Because God knows I would never trust my dogs as far as I could throw even the 9-pound dog, because they're dogs and they're not all that trustworthy. But I think it's a polite way for somebody to say, believe in yourself. So I appreciate when somebody says, trust your dog, because I hear the words, believe in yourself, Diane. And when somebody says, you're late, to me, late is a 4-letter word. I hear, be early, be timely. And I've trained myself that when phrases come up that could put a negative picture into my head, that I have to hear them correctly. At the start line, when somebody says, show us how it's done, there was a time in my life where I'd go, oh, and now I hear they want me to win. Oh, that's really cool. Thanks. So reframing is huge. And I think that's part of taking responsibility for your mind.
Yeah, I definitely think that reframing is important, because it really it's you taking back the control, and also, again, getting an understanding. And one of the things that I view mental training and dog training is basically the same things. It's just used in a different area. And I talk about this inner dog, which is what I call the subconscious mind is the inner dog.
Yeah, your
and
subconscious dog. Yeah.
and you cannot always trust that either. Because you're on a diet and then you see chocolate cake, it's like, yes, let's eat it.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And I think that it's so important that the conscious part of you needs to guide that subconscious part in an intelligent way. And sometimes you need to reframe things because things might be said in the best intention, but to your understanding, it means something the opposite of what you're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you need to take back that control and reframe it. And that, again, is asking better questions or
Yeah. It really is that there's just so many opportunities in life and in training where, I really believe that the vast majority of people want to see you win. You got to be a wacko if you don't want to see somebody else win. There's plenty of slices of pie for everybody. We can all win at some level. My win may not be the same as your win. My win may be an efficient turn. Your win may be a contact, but we all win in individual ways. And the focus on the ribbons and the titles, over here in the US, we have a little bit more pressure for ribbons and titles here. We have lots of programs, we have lots of different venues for agility in the United States. We've got many organizations with different styles of agility. So we've got lots of opportunities to get lots of titles and ribbons and things like that. And I consciously made the decision to stop worrying about that or stop tracking all of that. It's kind of fun. I was like, oh God, I hope he doesn't ask me what I've done because I don't know anymore. If a certificate comes in the mail, then I'm excited about it. Or if I've looked at a record, maybe I know, but I'm past that point and I just want to, my ribbon is maybe a good contact or my ribbon is maybe great weave entry. And that's my success in the sport. So I've changed my mindset on what this is. And if I qualify, I qualify. And if I don't, I don't. And I'm not going to go home any lesser of a human being if I don't have some ribbon or title or some qualification. I'm not anything less. And because my worth isn't tied to a result like a piece of paper. My worth is tied to, does my dog understand and was I clear to my dog? Because he's the only one I really need to impress, not the coaches, not the judges, not anybody else. My dog is the one that really matters most to me. And it took a long time for me to make that shift. Yeah, but I have. And that's kind of where I go with it now. But yeah, the asking questions, oh my God, please, my advice to anybody, be that annoying person in the room and ask intelligent questions that relate to your understanding of what the process is supposed to be.
I think that sometimes just asking what quote unquote could be a stupid question or an obvious question could give you the answer that you didn't expect. I remember I met this productivity coach. His name is David Allen, and I asked him, "Why do you have a dog?" It's because I knew he had a couple of dogs. I was like, "Why do you have a dog?" And then he said, "Because they open your heart and take you for a walk."
Yeah. My personal mantra is heart to dog.
Yeah.
And I often wear it on t-shirts, heart to dog, because that is who I want to be in the sport. I want to be the person who has their heart open to their dog at all times so that I can really relate to them and feel good about myself. I like that. His dog opened his heart. That's wonderful.
Yeah. In terms of agility, what do you find is probably the most difficult part about this sport, the most challenging part of it?
Wow. What a I'm I've got 12 answers going on in my head. So pick the right one, Diane. The most challenging part of agility is finding the right support. And I mean that in terms of the people that you're around, friends, trainers, because that can make a world of difference. If you are with the right group, then you will feel all of those things that you want to feel, your heart to dog, that love, that camaraderie. And with the wrong group around you, it's hard. And we talked about the geography of things, but thankfully we've got internet and chats and all of that. I can keep in touch with people that I consider my tribe who may not live close to me. But that is a challenge, is because I think this is not an island and you really do need people around you. And when I'm done with this game, I want people to know that I was good for them and good with them. As I said, I don't bother with the titles so much anymore, but I will not reject a title if I get one, by the way. I do like them. But I want to be known as somebody who's got a good towards people and their dogs. And that matters more to me than anything. So that's a challenge in this sport. The other challenge, honestly, is learning about all of the judges. It's every judge has a style. Every judge has their quirks. Every judge has their favorite things. And so learning the patterns of every judge is really, you must be a student of this sport. You can't just go to class on Wednesday and call it done for the week. Training routine includes me studying videos online at least 1 or 2 nights a week from other handlers, slow framing and studying their styles, and going outside and seeing if I want it and put that in my handling toolbox. Studying judges' course maps, looking for course maps, studying new techniques. I spend far more time on myself and my knowledge and my physicality than I ever spend training my dog. Because I row now. So I went from archery to rowing. I've got the dog training class. I've got to go to my personal trainer. So for weight training and things like that. And I've got to practice my running, which, by the way, I hate running. I'd much rather be on a bicycle or something. But I spend far more time on me than I ever spend on the dog. The challenge is staying in shape mentally and physically for this sport. I think that's the biggest challenge. The dogs pick it up so quickly.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I think that's also one of the, as you say, the hardest part is allowing yourself to make room for self-improvement. Because I see that most people in the agility sport, they spend a lot of time on their dogs, which is great. There's nothing wrong with it, but you need to have a balance because you're a team. Yeah. It's not just a dog winning, it's also you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, part of the joy of going to these shows, and I'm so blessed that because of my dogs, I get to travel, is, we're looking up where we're going to go hiking this afternoon, because the dogs have a good time hiking and they love, that's their exercise as well. I try to find that balance because if I don't have a good life, I won't have a good run. So I'm always hopeful that there's balance and that people really embrace balance. There's nothing sadder to me than seeing a dog who only does agility and never gets to do anything but agility. But they would love to climb a mountain, or they would love to swim, or they would love to go down to the store with you and go shopping. Anything, but they've got to be integrated into all part of your lives. We bought a camper because of the dogs. So that we could take them to shows, so that we could take them out west to go hiking, or take them out here to the buffalo farm that we're staying at. And, they're going to help us pick blueberries later. They get the ones on the ground, by the way. They're very good at that. It's all about balance. And I think I see a tendency, at least with some folks here in the U.S., and I'm sorry to all of my friends here in the U.S., we have so many different dog sports that you can do: chasing, lure coursing, jumping off a dock, doing agility, scent work, chasing frisbees, fetch. We have a new program called Fetch. These are fabulous programs. And I see everybody wanting to do all of them all at once. And then I go, when does the dog have a break? Does the dog ever stop? When does the dog just get to go be a dog? So I think you have to figure out balance and pick an activity that your dog really likes and just go enjoy it with them. Yeah, I have a lot of time because I am a retired person, but that's an awful lot of time to spend on an awful lot of things.
Yes, I agree. And I think that sacrifices it's a part of the game. You have to make some sacrifices. There are things that you have to say no to in order to say yes to something else. Difficult, easy to say, but hard to practice.
Yeah, it is difficult because you have to make a choice. And honestly, when I made the decision that I wanted to do international, I had to make a decision that sometimes I wouldn't be able to go out with my friends. They were going out and doing different things, different activities, and I'd have to say, no, I've got a show the next day, or I've got to train and I can't go. And that's really difficult on relationships with people. And thankfully, we've talked things out and we've all come to understand that everybody's goals are good goals. Everybody's with different levels. That's important. Like, that's a good tribe that says, okay, you're not going to come out to the, paint your dog night party. Okay, great. But good luck at the show the next day kind of thing. Because people have to adapt as well. Yeah, it's really a trade. You are trading your life for this sport, and I hope the trade is a really good one, and that you get to see really good things, and you get to always have your heart to your dog. You and I are talking about changing your brain. If you just change your brain, you can change your game. Worlds of opportunities open up, and wow, just there's nothing that should be a fixed mindset in this game at all. It should. Carol Dweck, I know she's one of your favorites as well. The power of yet. My dog hasn't seen that yet. I have trained skills that could let me accomplish it and do good things. I would encourage people to put the word yet at the end of every sentence, that they start with the word I.
Yeah, Carol Dweck, she's a professor at Stanford, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
And she really inspired me to do this podcast, because what she does at the start of the semester is she asks her students to find a person that they look up to, and then go back in time before they were known, before they were successful, and figure out their journey towards where they are today, and see the sacrifices and the effort they had to put in, and the challenges they experienced. And I think that's so important for people to understand that, yes, you're on your journey. You might be at the beginning, in the middle, and it might be difficult and tough. But it's like, it took you, what was it, 12 or 15 years to get to
millions
of years. Yeah, but it's kind of those things that you need to hear. And it wasn't your first dog; it was your fourth dog. And having that understanding is so important in order to strive patiently towards what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I think, and with new people entering the sport, there is no rush. There's really no rush to do things, I don't even know who my dogs are at 15 months old, let alone start competing with them. But that's me, and that's my journey, and that's how I like to run it. And other people run their lives differently, and that's perfectly fine and dandy. But I do encourage people to, you only get to start that dog once. Make sure that, there's not some serious problems there, and that when you're doing it, if you see a problem, get out of the ring. There's no rush. And it's very courageous to walk away and say, it's not our time. We need to go work on some other things. And I think that is, if you don't have somebody who can support you and say, it's okay to step away. It's okay not to start. It's okay not to, whatever. It's okay. Then you can accept the dog at whatever place the dog is in their journey, and then you can work forward from there. I keep thinking, like, I love to go to the beach. I bet you do too. And I always say the beach is made one grain of sand at a time. Dog agility for me is incremental. It's one grain of sand at a time, and eventually I'm going to have a beach. If I just keep adding one grain of sand every time I train my dog, one grain of sand every time I interact with my dog, one piece at a time, I will have a beautiful beach that, I will enjoy for a very long time. And patience is really difficult, really difficult. I remember I had a t-shirt once, and it was, I'm patient or impatient. They're both spelled the same. And it's a challenge to remember I'm patient. And that's what I think we need to be to get the best and the peak performance from our dogs, and especially from ourselves. That matters greatly to me.
And it's also different in the United States compared to Europe, because in the United States, you can start when you're 15 months old.
Yeah.
In Europe, I think most of the countries in Europe, it's 18 months of age.
Yeah. A lot of dogs haven't even finished physically growing by then. Everybody understands their dog to their level and to their wants, and that's fine. My dogs are, not at a capacity. And I think you have to be willing with a dog. Like, for instance, my border collie. I would love to have running contacts with my border collie. Mentally, he can't handle it. He's 4 now, and he still can't handle a running contact. So he will have stopped contacts until I believe that he's got the mental maturity to control himself correctly. Will I get there? I hope so. If I don't, I don't. I mean, that's just how it's going to go. And I'll be 3-year-old Sheltie who doesn't yet compete. His contacts can, or to beat the band. But he has that ability, but he's not competing because he's missing some other piece of the story. And we're working on that. And eventually, if they get there, they get there. And if they don't, they don't. I'm still going to go traveling places and still do things with them to keep their life rich and full. And we'll figure it out. They're all different. And I can't force them to be who they're not.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the mindset for a good dog trainer as well, is really to get the best out of that potential for the dog, not necessarily forcing that to fit a frame that you decided that they should fit into.
Yeah.
And it's,
yeah,
go ahead.
Well, we were talking about being old, right? And so I look at this and I go, well, I'm getting older by the day. Do I have time to train another dog? And do I have time to train a dog to the quality? And I think as people age in this game, you really have to know in your heart if it's okay that maybe you don't have another dog, or that, okay, maybe if you do get a dog, it won't be trained to the nth degree like your last ones were. I think that there's this rush when you're older. I got to get it done before I die. And you're going to die anyway. So what's the difference? Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's true. But one of the things that I wanted to emphasize is that, like, if you sum up a dog's life, how much of that time do they actually spend in training and in the ring? And it's like probably 2 or 3%. And it's not much. So let's say 99% of the time they're your family dog. And that's what they should be most of the time as well. And when you get a puppy and you don't know, the lines could be really great, but there's no guarantee. And you just have to do the best with the dog that you have. And then I think that's both a challenge, of course, but it's also something that you need to develop and learn. In terms of, I asked you about the biggest challenges, but I also want to switch it. What is like your proudest moment in agility, and why?
Oh, you want to make me cry. You're like Barbara Walters. My proudest moment in agility. I've not had a perfect run yet. I'm waiting for that moment to happen. There's always something in a run that could be better. Can I have two? Can I have two moments?
Oh, sure.
Okay. One was winning the Westminster Championship with Cruiser, because I never thought that sort of an honor could go to me. And it's a big showcase, but it was a big deal. And it was just so cool that I just knew at that moment life was going to be different for me. That I was not going to be just happy being the weekend warrior. Then proudest moment was as I came out of the ring last year at the Senior World Championship, and my coach grabbed me and she said, "You've won." And it didn't occur to me that was a possibility. I didn't go there for that. I went there to put out a good run. And I really believe that if I put a good run down, that's all I have to do, and the world will take care of itself. And when my coach grabbed me and said, "You've won," everything went out of my head at that point. And then, of course, my husband hugged me. So that was really cool. But I was very proud of that because I had realized all of the sacrifice and all of the time I had put into it. I went into that competition very prepared. And I believed that it wasn't going to be luck. I believed I was going to do well because I had prepared better than anybody else. And it was realized in that moment. And it may never again happen in my life, but I had that moment and I'm very proud of that. And if it happens, I will welcome it.
Yeah, and you still have it. And I think that it's those, I think that the preparedness, that the effort that you put in is so important. Yeah. And we also have to keep in mind that there are so many other who've done similar amount of preparation as well.
Exactly.
And didn't get a gold medal.
Exactly. There's a day that it's everybody's day. I mean, if you step into that arena and you're like, okay, everybody prepared to be here. Now, it is just a matter of, maybe there is luck, I don't know, but I walked in believing I had done the homework and I had done the skills and I had studied. And I just knew that I could do this. And to be honest, I saw people in the walkthrough. I don't normally see people in walkthroughs, but I saw people in the walkthrough and I saw, oh, I'm doing things differently than them. Oh, I'm doing things differently than them. And I thought that would be me. I would be doing things a little differently. And it didn't occur to me to like really pay attention to what other handlers were doing because everybody was flicking their way around the course. I'm like, no, I want to do backside slices. I'm like, that's my jam. Oh, I just let out the secret. Oh, I'm not supposed to tell. But I said, well, they're going to be good at that and I'm going to be good at this. And it's all going to be good at the end because we're all going to be good. And it worked out nicely. I remember one moment. Can I talk about another handler at a different show?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you mind?
No.
Well, I did have a really cool run with Ellie once in Denmark. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. And dancing on a podium with Ellie, really cool stuff. I like that. But at the World Championship in the Czech Republic, Renan Campos, if I apologize if I say his name incorrectly.
Yeah.
He handled jump number 4 in the small jumping course differently than everybody else. And when I saw him do that, I just knew he had won the competition. And he was courageous and decisive in his action. And I don't think I'll ever forget that run in my life. And it's not even my run, but I was so excited to be in the room to see him do that and to walk away with the medal on that run. And he believed in himself. And it was amazing. And I thought, wow, that is the kind of person I want to be like, to have that courageousness and that decisiveness before I step into a ring. It was very cool to watch. The whole thing was cool to watch, but that moment was great.
Yeah, I will definitely ask him about that question once I get him on the podcast. So yes, jump number 4. But it's having that. I think that when you step into the ring, that you can sort of eliminate the audience and what all the other handlers are doing or how they are solving the course. Really hone in on you and your dog, knowing your strength and your weaknesses and how you will solve this, and having, as you say, the courage to do your thing. I think that's really unique, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it don't, but still having the guts and the courage to do that, even at a big championship like the AWC, it takes a lot.
Yeah, I think it is important. I have to drive home from every competition, or I travel home from every competition. It is important to me that when I'm driving home, I can say to myself, I was courageous, I was decisive. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think there's an expression, go big or go home. And I remember that, you got 2 choices, go big or go home. And I'd like to go home thinking I went big in my choices and I was courageous and decisive. I don't ever want to drive home thinking, what if I had done something else? So I really have to stand behind my decisions. And sometimes, because I'm human, they're not good. Sometimes it's not the right decision for the moment. And then, you pay the price. But I guess that's okay. It hurts in the moment. But I feel that if you want to be at an elite level, you have to give up the being it safe, and you have to give up the always doing the easy, that you really have to be a little different sometimes and take a calculated risk. I don't ever take a risk just because for the fun of taking a risk. I take a calculated risk because I know the skills I've trained in myself that I could use. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's just how it goes. And I believe that that's how it goes for everybody, whether they admit it or not. That's how it goes. We can't have 100% qualifying rate. Not in this game. In archery, Chris? No, in archery, my arrow was my partner.
Yeah.
My arrow had no emotion. It had no independence. It had nothing. So it just kind of it just went where I sent it. And I had to own that 100%. In agility, when you've got that dog, you're responsible for you and that dog. And on any given day, you don't know who's going to be in a good mood or who's not. So there's so many variables in this game. It's so exciting. Love it.
Yeah, it definitely is. And every new dog has its mind of its own, they say. And that's for sure. Yeah. So in terms of the journey you've been on, and if you were to go back in time and give yourself some advice at the very beginning, like what would you say?
Oh, be patient. Be patient. I think I had to go through 4 dogs or so, to get to the first one because I wasn't patient with the dog. And I expected it to do things. He should do this. She should do that. I expected the dog to do things. And then when you start to realize they're just dogs. Look, I've got, like 50 billion brain cells in my head. And a dog, no matter how smart it is, has 5 billion brain cells in their head. So I don't think it's fair to ever say, well, the dog should do something. He's got 5 billion brain cells. I've got 50 million. I mean, I'm running the show here. Be patient and give yourself grace and don't worry about perfection. Think towards progress and process. And those are the precursors to any kind of mastery, is understanding process, and then you will have pieces of progress, incremental growth, and then you can have mastery. And I think above all else, Chris, you've got to be kind to yourself and to your dog. Those are the key things that I think every new person, and I wish I could have reminded myself about that. Because I'll tell you something, when I was 41 and starting this game, I thought, I need to get it done now. I'm old. And here I am all these years later, still doing it and, still learning every single time I hit the field. And that's my goal, is to learn something every time I hit the field. Just get that one more grain of sand onto my beach and keep my heart to my dog.
That's very good. And for the last, maybe the last question, what is the most valuable lesson one of your dogs have taught you that a coach could never teach you?
Oh my goodness. What lessons have they taught me? That I speak dog better than I speak human. I sometimes struggle with the human dialogue, but I've learned to understand my dogs. And I don't think a coach could have taught me how to do that. It has just come from time with my dogs and appreciating who they are and how they are. And they are the loves of my life, besides Billy. They are the loves of my life, and they have taken me on such amazing places, and they're going to continue wherever we go, whatever we do. But I appreciate so much through them. I named my dog Happy because that's what he was, and that's what he is. And I've become a more happy person since he joined us. And so I guess I would also tell new people in this sport, name your dog something that, you want to be or something that you aspire to, because if you don't have that happiness in your life, it's really not worth it.
Is that why we
job? Give it up.
Is that why we named Vince, our border collie, also for Billy?
Yeah, because Billy's really happy. And so it's just, everybody likes when Billy's in the room, It's not a show until Billy shows up.
Sure.
And then we take pictures of him when he sleeps, which I did this morning, as a matter of fact. But it's just fun, I create the vision that you want. My vision board is filled with pictures of happy things that make me joyful, things that make me feel good. And, I do have a vision board, right? Now, thanks to Pinterest, I don't actually need to have a vision board on the wall anymore. I have Pinterest and I can create it there. And it's got all of my thoughts. And those are the things that I spend time at shows looking at. I'll be off reading in a corner, looking at my Pinterest or looking at my notes to myself. And I think that's important to know why you're at the show. Yes, social. I'm there for my dog, and how can I best prepare for my dog? I can mentally get ready by, looking at my vision board of things, looking at my notes, reminding myself of my mantras, heart to my dog, and focus, breathe, trust, repeat. Trust myself, by the way, not my dog. Focus, breathe, trust, repeat, all of those things. And I sing a lot at shows too. I would tell people to learn how to sing, whether you're good or bad at it. Sing at a show. It makes you feel good.
It's going to be interesting to see if anyone follows that advice. Maybe we have a agility choir or something like that in a couple of years.
At the senior championship last year, my coach said to me, "What were you singing? I never heard that song before," because I was singing before I stepped to the line. And I said, "What? It's like a song." And she said, I've never heard that. I never said I was a good singer. I just said I like to sing. So I was humming a song before I started my run. It made me feel really good, and it got my mind off of, oh my God,
Yeah.
the at that point it's over anyways. Either you got it with you at the line or you don't. So there's no sense in stressing when you're on the line. Just run. So I sang.
It's a great way to change your focus and your basically the body and getting to a proper state of mind.
Yeah, I do. I will often, Chris, I'll if I start to feel those flutters in the stomach, I go, thank you, God, you're here. Oh, you showed up. Like if I don't feel a flutter in my stomach, it's a bad day. I'm like, no, where's the flutter? I need it. And when it shows up, I say, thank you. And then I literally say to it, go sit down. I'll see you in a minute. Go sit down. I'll be back in a minute. And then I start my routine of, I might look around quickly and see how many people are wearing blue shirts. Or how many people are wearing a certain brand of sneaker, or how many windows there are in the facility, or I just might start singing happy birthday or something or whatever, but I'll just do something to take my mind off it because you either had it when you walked in or you didn't. And breathe. We didn't talk about breathing, but breathing is so important. Yeah. It's the last thing I do before I release my dog. Deep breath, and then let them go.
And you also have your mantra or on your website, it's focus, and then it's breathe, trust, and repeat. Yeah.
That's really the whole thing. And that really keeps you centered on yourself. And I just truly believe in that. And it makes all the sense in the world because if I breathe, then I feel good about myself. And then I have the energy to run. So it's all good.
Yeah. Try running without breathing. That'll be funny.
In archery, they teach you how to breathe because you want to shoot in between breaths and heartbeats. And that's something that doesn't get done in this sport. People don't teach you how to breathe, that you need to breathe at certain places on the run. So I'm always encouraging people not to waste their oxygen on words they don't need or things they don't need to do in a run. Keep your oxygen where you need it. And as we get older, we need more oxygen. So don't say too much.
Sure. Very good. So what's next on your journey now? It's getting home, 60-hour drive.
Well, yeah, we'll go home. We'll drive home. Then I'll get back in the car, go to another trial in another state. Last one before we leave for Portugal in 13 days or so. So we'll be there. That's the second weekend of July. And then I'll come home. We'll take a little bit of a break. And then we'll start up again in the fall, probably. I do like to take a lot of time off in the summer. And we just go play and we have fun. We don't do agility. We chase frisbees and go hiking and things like that. So yeah, after Portugal, hopefully, maybe I'll make that trip to Sweden to go hang out, watch the show and see what's going on over there and catch up with my many friends and watch them run and cheer for them. And then we go back and, next year, I've got my 2 younger dogs and it's time for them to really start to do a little bit more of agility. And they're both very different. I've got a big border collie, a small Sheltie. So I've got lots of opportunity to do lots of training and travel. Hopefully some teaching, hopefully some training, and always having fun.
That's very good. And I definitely look forward to seeing you both in Portugal. And I'll hopefully seeing you in Sweden as well.
Yeah. I forgot to say, in Italy in the fall. We're going to go to Italy for fun and do the International Sheltie Show in Italy. For fun.
Nice. Yeah, why not? I find it so amazing that both like Renan from Brazil and you guys from the United States, you're basically traveling to the opposite side of the world. We're going to the country next to us. So we think it's a long drive, but it's so different. But I love it.
Yeah, isn't it?
Every time
we take a vacation in the fall, so yeah.
Yeah. But every time I complain, I always remind myself there's always someone coming from either Singapore, United States, Brazil, whatever it might be, have a much, much longer journey. So it's good to have. But Diane, I'm so grateful that you took the time both to share your journey, share your story. If for the people that are listening, if you want to find Diane, you can go to the domain that I wish I had, which is agilitymindset.com.
I might give it up to you. You haven't maintained it in a while. Yeah, I might have to give you the domain.
I would have to buy it then. But then...
No, we didn't talk about your book. I love the title of your book, The Agility Mindset. I mean, is it a perfect name or what?
Yeah, I thought so too. When I looked up who owned the domain, because I figured out after writing the book that the domain wasn't available, I was like, oh, it's Diane.
It's me. We might be able to make a deal here. I think we could work this out. As you see, it hasn't been updated. I've been too busy competing to update it. So, it's got a lot of gaps in it right now.
You have your priorities in check, and that's for sure.
We have fun.
Yes, that's very good. But I really appreciate you, Diane, taking the time. And I, as always, really look forward to see you in person.
Can I just say something to you about you? Because we've talked about me long enough. How boring. So seriously, for everybody who's listening to this, if you see Christopher at a show, you want him as your friend. Okay. He approached us in Denmark. He was working classes and my husband was helping working classes. And I think you were running leashes. I seriously think you're the leash runner. We became friends in that moment, and he's a wonderful resource. And I know personally I've experienced Christopher's ability at coaching at shows because he's helped me at shows I've been at overseas. And I think that you're a very valuable person in our sport. Your mindset approach is brilliant, and it's genuine, and it's authentic. And it's so common sense, and it is so valuable. And your personal help of people at shows makes you invaluable to the Norwegian team and to anybody who meets you at a show. So I would encourage everybody, if you want to grow your game and you want to change your brain, to talk to you.
I appreciate that.
Because you and Ellie have been wonderful to us, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your help. I couldn't have done things without you. Yeah, you can go ahead and blush a little. It's okay.
Yes, I do, and I'm not ashamed of it either. But I think that it's the way that we view agility is that you cannot control the result list and where you end up. But if everyone could have a good run and not sabotage it, that would be fun. That would be great, and people can have a great run, and you don't have to focus too much on the result list. You just have to focus on your game, and then then we get to see where you end up on the list, and that's it. That's basically it.
That's great.
Well, again, thank you, Diane, and then yes, I really look forward to seeing you in Portugal
soon, my friend. Soon, not soon enough, but soon. Thank you, Chris.
That's it for this podcast episode with Diane Patterson. And unfortunately, we didn't get the chance to catch up between the Senior World Championship and European Open. But I know that our paths will cross again, and I really look forward to it. And I truly hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast. And I also recommend that you go to dogagilityperformance.com and sign up for the Daily Champion Affirmation newsletter. Just go to dogagilityperformance.com, and there you will find the newsletter sign up. Once you sign up to that, you will receive a daily affirmation and a quote and a challenge that you can do on a daily basis that will help you to continue to build a growth mindset, including this podcast. Thank you for today, and then I'll see you in the next episode.